Matt Clifford, who set up Entrepreneur First, which is I think a unique accelerator and a highly successful accelerator, rather than me do a ham-fisted job of introducing everything you're doing at Entrepreneur First. Please can you give a warm round of applause to Matt, who doesn't have any slides. Okay, so thank you. That's great.
Well, first, huge apologies for looking at the room just before meant to be the talk. Minor family emergency, which I hope is now sorted, but thank you for your patience and apologies. Who here has started a business? Okay, and keep your hand up if it was the very first thing you did at the start of your career. The very first thing. Thank you. So, one of the most asked questions in entrepreneurship, particularly at the policy level when kind of governments get together and start to worry about entrepreneurship, is why haven't we had the Google? That is a question that gets asked all the time, civil servants, politicians, and there's lots and lots of different answers, and there's endless reports written on this. In fact, before I started Entrepreneur First, I was a management consultant, for which I apologise, and I indeed wrote one of these reports on why hasn't Europe had a Google. But the simple answer, I think, is that the reason that there hasn't been a European Microsoft, and the reason that there hasn't been a European Google, is that if Larry and Sergey, or if Bill Gates had been in Europe, then Larry and Sergey would be at Goldman Sachs, and Bill Gates would probably be a corporate lawyer. And the reason I say that is that I believe the single most important force in shaping entrepreneurship and shaping the startup ecosystem is what do the most ambitious people want to do with their lives. And the fact is that in Silicon Valley, the normal thing, in fact more than the normal thing, almost the default thing for ambitious people to express their ambition is to start a company. You're kind of a loser if you go to Goldman Sachs. Like, what, does that mean that you couldn't start a company? Is the sort of question that you can get asked if you were a Stanford grad. If you're a Cambridge grad and you start a company, it's like, you're kind of a loser. Did you not get into Goldman Sachs? Exactly. I don't know if anyone here works for Goldman Sachs. I also apologise. I was in McKinsey, so I've used that word as well in this spiel. But the truth is, what people will do with their lives is really important. And if the default career path in a society is finance or professional services, or weirdly, as it is in Singapore where we're active, government, then you just don't get the companies that you would get if those same ambitious, talented people wanted to start companies. And I'm really passionate about this problem, and my entire company is built around trying to answer the question of what would it take to get those people outside Silicon Valley to start companies instead of learning PowerPoint shortcuts. Not just PowerPoint shortcuts. And that's what Entrepreneur First does. Entrepreneur First is a talent-first company building program. So one of our beliefs about what it takes to get ambitious people en masse, obviously there's lots of ambitious people in the room who have started companies. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about all your friends who are still in their corporate jobs. One of our beliefs about what it takes is you can't just set up venture capital funds or accelerators and hope that that will magic into existence ambitious startups. You cannot say, build it and they will come. In fact, you have to go really radical, really early, and start working with the highest potential founders before they're even founders. You have to start working with them before they have a company, perhaps before they have a team, maybe even before they have an idea. In other words, you have to select founders based on potential alone, and then take them through a journey whereby they realise that this is what they want to do. If it is, we're also very happy to help them if it turns out that it's not. That takes through the process of thinking, who should I work with? Who's the ideal co-founder or partner for this company? And what they want to work on. What is big? What's scalable? What's ambitious? What's worth doing? If you're ambitious and talented, your time has a very high opportunity cost. And so one thing we're very passionate about is helping people find ideas that are worth the opportunity cost of their time. I don't just mean financially, I mean that what we're interested in is working with people who really can have a massive impact in the world. So it seems totally crazy for us, for someone who could otherwise be doing something really important, to be building the world's 72nd best dating app. That doesn't seem like a good use of talent and ambition. And when you take these ideas together, you get Entrepreneur First, which is our company. Entrepreneur First, twice a year in London and twice a year in Singapore, runs a company building program that looks a little bit like an accelerator, but unusually, as I say, we do not invest in companies. If you have a company, you're already too late for us. We just invest in individuals before they have a company. Been doing this since 2011, when we left McKinsey, having got bored of PowerPoint. Well, I seem to spend a lot of time in PowerPoint these days, so something's gone horribly wrong.
You can help me next time.
You notice I didn't bring slides. This is because the more I can reduce the time in PowerPoint, the better. How do we, how do we do it? Well, we have 3 businesses, I like to say, are stacked on top of each other. We have a talent business. We have 12 people full-time headhunting the world's most ambitious people. We also typically focus on people with technical backgrounds, not exclusively, but we really believe that one of the exciting developments of the last 20 years is that the fact that now if you can build a product in your bedroom that can ultimately reach 1 billion people, as Mark Zuckerberg did, that is a radical shift of power from capital to talent. If you're the person that has those skills, you effectively are your own means of production. You don't need to go raise loads of money to hire people. You are that person. It's exactly what Zuckerberg did, it's what Gates did, it's what Larry Page did. So that's very important to us. We find those people, and we reach out to about 10,000 people a year. As I said, these are not people with companies. We email them and we say, hey Richard, you've got an interesting background. Have you ever thought about starting a company?
This is a role play. This never happened to me.
Remarkably, the response rate to that email is about 40%. And those of you who do cold outbound outreach will know that's pretty ludicrously high. And I think that just shows the depth of the problem. There are many, many people in our society who have a latent entrepreneurialism, but have never been given a vehicle or a path to exercise it. As I said, it's still culturally weird to be an entrepreneur. That's why there's not 1,000 people here to see me speak. Well, maybe some other reasons. So that's the first part of our business. We reach out to these people, we find them, we talk to them. We never try and persuade people to be entrepreneurs if they don't want to be. That sounds like a very bad idea. But we do talk to them about how it's possible. Making it seem possible is a very important part of what we do. Second business that we kind of stack on top of that is once we found the 100 best people of those 10,000, where best means meet our criteria for what great entrepreneurs look like, we then take them through a 6-month process. The first 3 months is dedicated to helping them find the right person within that group to start the company with. And they iterate often many times and try many things. And the second half is dedicated to getting the product into the market. And the third thing we do is we help them raise money. They may be the means of production, but they can't feed their team on nice words, and so they do need to raise capital. So we manage funds and we help introduce them also to investors who influence them. So it sounds, well, maybe it doesn't sound very nice. Maybe it all sounds very nice, or maybe not. Does it work? Well, we think there is increasing evidence that it does work. So over the last 5 years, we've used this model to build about 110 companies. Today they're worth just over $1 billion. We are now, my favourite stat about our flow of talent is that in 2011, when we started this company, 60% of computer science graduates from Imperial College went into financial services. Today the number is about 10%, and EF gets about 11%. So Entrepreneurship now takes more Imperial computer science graduates than the entire financial services industry put together. On the outcome side, we've had about $270 million worth of exits. The biggest being a company that is most memorable for its very stupid name, which is Magic Pony Technology. Magic Pony Technology is a great story because it kind of highlights the problems in outside Silicon Valley of how do people find each other. 2 guys, Rob and Zihan, both studying at Imperial College, both computer scientists, yet both wanting to start startups, somehow never met each other, joined our program, met with us, tried totally different things with totally different people for 5 weeks. After 5 weeks, met each other, found an idea at the intersection of their interests. 15 months later, still owning 60% of the company, they sold it to Twitter for $150 million. And suddenly all their friends and classmates were like, huh, suddenly Goldman Sachs doesn't seem so smart. Why I wanted to come tonight and what we're really passionate about is we believe that normalising entrepreneurship, making entrepreneurship a legitimate career path that the most ambitious people see as a natural choice is, I think, something that has roots in our universities, in our education system, and actually also in our employment system. One thing that, joking aside about McKinsey, was amazing about that experience was they were extremely positive about us leaving to start a business. They didn't see that as a negative thing at all. So I'm conscious of time, I don't want to go over, but what I would say is I'm really excited about using the Cambridge Online Network as a force for encouraging and reinforcing the idea of entrepreneurship as a normal path, perhaps even a default path for the most ambitious people. And I believe that what we've done over the last 5 years at EF is show that you can actually find successful entrepreneurs based on talent alone. And with the right process and the right infrastructure, the right people, the right funding, you can actually make them entrepreneurial success stories. Stop that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to take questions now, but I'll kick off with the first one, which is that I think that some people who chose to go into corporate life or McKinsey or Goldman Sachs or a law firm might feel that this is a slightly threatening message, and like in some way there's a new pecking order in which entrepreneurs are at the top and they want to be at the top. So the view I've got is that in CAMentrepreneurs, different people are at different stages in their life, and there might be people who are in corporate now. Ideally, they'd like to start a business, but they've got they've got a husband, they've got kids at school, they've got expensive things going on, and it's not that easy. And I'd like to make it a long-term process to bring people in. And what do you do anything to try and not seem superior and arrogant to people who are no?
I hope so. Gosh.
But do you understand the problem that if someone's stuck in a big corporate feeling they can't get out, we might want to rescue them, but possibly not by saying.
So I have three sort of thoughts on that, which are all parts of what we provide at EF. So the first is our heritage, like where we built the company, was in focusing on graduate recruitment. That's what we did for the first 2 years, and I think we were reasonably good at it. But it was really tough, partly because we spent a lot of the time on the program teaching people how to write emails and things like that. And it was probably not that high value add to teach people. Well, I don't know. I suppose learning how to write emails is pretty important. What we discovered after about 2 years was that there was absolutely no reason to have an age limit on this. It was totally arbitrary. I think, to be totally honest, the reason there was an age limit was that I was 25 when I started this business, and I felt I was just about comfortable telling a 23-year-old what to do. So that was the average age in year one. Now I'm 31, and I feel just about comfortable telling a 29-year-old what to do, and that's the average age in year 6. I'm being slightly facetious, but the age range on EF now is the youngest person we've ever had is 19, the oldest person we've ever had is 57, and I hope, well, I don't know if I want to go much younger, but I'm very happy to go older. So there is no reason why, if you are stuck in corporate life, you shouldn't apply to EF. There's a guy on the last cohort who was a sort of 45-year-old partner at a Big Four accounting firm, had like pretty intense income needs, but we found a way. So that's the first answer. Second answer is, it's not all about being the founder. We deliberately talk about entrepreneurship because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the first one on the first day. So the second thing is, these companies that we're building absolutely need corporate trained talent to come in from day 1, day 100, day 1,000. And the profiles of those people change over time. So we very, very actively help our startups recruit top tier corporate talent as their employees. And so, we actually, I see Peter sitting at the back. We have a company that we co-invested in, and I think we have like a ex-banking MD join that company as like a tech person. So there's we're pretty solid on that. The third thing is, you can really support entrepreneurship from within corporates. So the third thing that we have within our company is, we now pretty much once a week have senior decision makers from the corporate world come into our office, meet a curated group of our startups that are in their field, and help them do business in a very practical way, like buy from them, find ways to collaborate, find ways to do deals. So I think whatever your stage of life, whatever your needs, whether you can or can't jump out and start something, there's absolutely ways to get involved.
Great. And, a comment I'd make about, because this is, CAMentrepreneurs is still a startup. I used to be a member of something called YPO, which is basically only for successful people. You have to be worth quite a lot of money to join. And I think it's really important for CAMentrepreneurs we're not just evangelizing, and because in a way, let's say, the people here might be the low-hanging fruit. These are people who are in London, who are into entrepreneurship, and they're here now because something like this didn't exist before. But longer term, I think it's really important to get the word out to other Cambridge alumni and other people that, this is a reasonable thing to consider doing, not necessarily your first job, maybe your second, maybe your third. So it's really great to have something like Entrepreneur First as a powerful example of how this can be really successful. But it could be someone's dream is just to have a restaurant, and they have a restaurant, and they're also an entrepreneur. I'm not saying start a restaurant. I've lost a lot of it's a bad idea, but if it's your dream and you're successful, then do that. So, sorry, we've got time for a couple more questions. Does anyone? Yes?
Can I just ask you, one third of what you do is talent assessment or talent finding. There's been lots of studies about what makes the personality of a successful entrepreneur, and it's normally sociopath, obsessive, murderous,
People like us. People like us. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you formed a view of what a successful entrepreneur looks like?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something we spend a lot of time on. So one thing we're obsessed with at EF is data. So we, as well as a talent team to headhunt these people, we also have a technology team that records the results of every email exchange, every interview, everything we do with these people. Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, they're pretty banal, I have to say. I don't think there's any magic. You know, we look for people with extreme levels of determination. We found that's by far the most important thing. You can call that a different thing. You can call it grit, you can call it resilience, but nearly everyone in the room has or been or is an entrepreneur. I think you all know that there's just an intuitive importance of determination. It's actually far more important than being intelligent, which is not what we expected at the start. I think intelligence does matter. I think, or rather I would call it general problem-solving ability. Sort of resourcefulness, you might actually call that, like confronted with barriers, finding a way. We use that phrase a lot, yeah, finding a way. The third thing we look for increasingly, and I think we undervalued it at the start, is sort of the ability to lead. It sort of seems a little bit surplus to requirements when there's two people, but you know, actually, if you can't bake that into the DNA of the company from day one, I think it's extremely tough. So that's the third thing, and then the fourth thing, which is a bit more EF-centric, is because we're starting pre-idea often, they can have ideas, but it's not essential. We require something that we call an edge. And by an edge, I mean a personal competitive advantage. So you can't just turn up at EF and say, I want to start a startup. And you say, why? Because it's a startup. You know, it's like that doesn't really fly. So we're really looking for people who can say, well, I've done this before or that before. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurial. Or I know a lot about this, or I spent 5 years exploring that, and therefore I have this edge. And this edge is going to somehow, even if it's not an idea yet, be the foundation of my startup. That's the fourth thing we look for.
Thank you. Yes, time for a couple more questions. Yes.
Not all startups work out, and looking back at the
Correct.
cohorts of entrepreneurial types, what you're looking for about 10 years ago, I knew. For some of them, it's not worked out 3 or 4 times, not necessarily because they're wrong, or even it happens. The question is you're talking about bringing people into that rather than corporate life. What message or reassurance do you give to the people about what happens if they're one of the possibly majority for whom after 2 or 3 attempts, 4 or 5 years, what's the end game for that? Do they end up dying in poverty? Do they? Serious question.
It's too soon to say. No, I'm joking.
Where do they go?
They're not dead yet. We're really big on this. This is I'm really glad you asked. It's a hugely important issue. If you look at what does Silicon Valley absolutely uncontroversially do better than any other ecosystem in the world, it's recycle talent into something not only kind of face-saving, but genuinely crucial, important and productive, which is being the troops in the other startup companies that are working. So I actually think that one of the key things that we'll look back on EF and say is that it served an amazing talent aggregation function. One of the hardest things about startups is hiring. I think all of you that run companies will know that, particularly because you're competing with the big guys, and they have huge budgets and lots of resources. So over half of the people who don't make it EF go and work at an EF company. We're really proud of that. It's also a huge benefit of being an EF company, because you get to hire people of the caliber that were on the program. We so far have a 0% unemployment record, like no one has died in poverty yet that we know of. They're harder to track once they're dying, but it's totally a joke, guys. You can smile at that. We're not actually worried about that. But I think what's great about having an ecosystem, what's great about groups like this, is the way to reduce the personal cost of entrepreneurial failure is to have dense networks of people who value what went before the failure. And that's what Silicon Valley is absolutely magical at, is that, I think there's a bit of a cliche and you can oversell it, but, knowing that someone's failed at a startup in Silicon Valley means that you also know a lot about what they have done and what they have learned. I think if we can really embed that in British and European startup culture, it's definitely getting there. That's hugely valuable.
Yeah, just to give a really concrete example, I invest in startups as well as running some businesses, and you know, if someone's had a business that's failed, they will know the importance of clients. And, you know, and it's impossible that someone who've dealt with trying to get revenue in and failed, you know, any business that never has revenue will fail eventually. That the only money that ever comes in ultimately comes from clients. So, you know, that's a very valuable thing. And it's quite, if someone's never worked on their own business, they just might not get how important that money from clients is. And it's just one example, but there are hundreds. But the lessons of failure are the ones you remember. There's a saying in Polish, sukces ma wiele ojców, porażka jest sierota, which means success has, I'm just showing off. So I got Polish citizenship 3 weeks ago, so I'm very, very proud of myself. Which means I'm going to maintain my rights as a European citizen, no matter what. That's a little bit of politics, the only bit of politics. But what that means is that success has many fathers, and failure is an orphan. But if it's your failure, then you will remember, and that's really important. Okay, time for one more question, if you want. Otherwise, I would say let's have a very warm round of applause for Matt, please. Thank you so much.